All right, tubers, Madam Roy back once again. Wow, didn't actually think we'd be able to do it tonight. YouTube is having some major technical snafus. I was not able to actually get it to go live. I set it up about half an hour ago, and then about a minute ago, I clicked go live. I just got that swirling ring of death, I like to call it. And after that, it didn't do anything. It just kept ringing. It said, please stand by, please stand by. It wouldn't actually let me go live. So I closed everything down, closed the browser, reopened it, reopened YouTube, and then finally went into my upcoming events, click go live, and this time, voila. So I hope everybody's gonna be able to make it tonight. This is kind of an experiment for me. I just thought of this a day or so ago, and I said, you know what? Let me see if I can do this for 1 week, live streams for 1 week. So this is what we're gonna do. For those of you that didn't read the description, for 1 week, I'm going to do a live stream once a day at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You guys can check out and see when that actually is for your area. And pretty much no holds barred. We're going to talk about whatever we're going to talk about. You guys can bring up a topic. I'll be bringing up some topics, and we'll just see where it goes. Hopefully we won't run out of material. I know a lot of you guys will interject. This is definitely a team effort. So I want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to ask questions and maybe direct the conversation in one of a few different directions. Guessing probably either technology, fitness, cooking, somewhere to that effect, but I'm open to all suggestions. I'm going to start off this live stream reading a few comments people have left to my regular videos in the community section here. Fry says hi. Eric Brunhammer says hi. Scott Kearley is here. Don't forget cars. Yeah, though I don't know a heck of a lot about cars. Robert Jones is here. Hired Gun is here. Gregory Hayes says hi. Hi to you. So without further ado, let me go and get into some of the community stuff here. I'm going to try to streamline this a little bit. If you guys wonder why I'm talking a little funny, got a couple of mints in my mouth. I had we actually went to Olive Garden today, and I had the chicken and shrimp carbonara, which I love, but has tons of garlic. So about 3-4 hours after that, my breath starts to really stink. So I had to put a few mints in there. They'll be gone in a minute, so don't worry about it. Chris Bartlett commented about the last live stream. He said, "Oh well, I did say hi in the chat. There, you didn't see me probably." That's right. I do apologize. If we get a lot of people, it's really hard to answer everybody's comments or questions. And no, I did not ignore you again, Chris. I see that there. Chris said hello. He goes, and he ignored me again. Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. No, I see you there. I didn't forget you. That's why some of the moderators, Scott Kearley, please help me out a little bit. If you see me skipping some people here, just go ahead and answer some of the questions to the best of your ability as well. Yeah, Scott says he's not sure why, but he wasn't getting my notifications. What you want to do, if you go to my homepage, and this works for all YouTubers, and you see that subscribe button, make sure you click that subscribe button, because a lot of you guys out there that watch my videos are not necessarily subscribed. Make sure you click that subscribe button, and right next to that is a bell icon. It looks like a bell. You want to click that as well. That's the notification icon. If you click that, you will be notified of all of my upcoming videos and live streams. So do those two things. You should be good to go. Robert Jones says we can't tell, Matt. Yeah, you guys probably can tell, but believe it or not, with garlic, it actually irritates me. Like, I'll get to the point where I can go like this, and I can actually smell it on my breath. Now I just smell peppermint. And that's another thing I was going to tell you guys. I know I showed this in the live stream the other night, the excitements. I like wintergreen myself. But for the last 2 or 3 months, these are the ones from Aldi. These are not actually wintergreen. they had some kind of snafu, technical snafu in their warehouse. They're actually filling these things with mint peppermint flavor. So just an FYI, if you go to your local Aldi and you get these things and they say wintergreen, don't be surprised if they're actually peppermint. Chris Bartlett said hi a few times. I think, or Chris, yeah, I think he wants to make sure that I actually heard that or saw that. Stephen Barber, hey Matt, how are you? I did the review of the HP Omen 870, but it's short and sweet. If you want more in-depth review, I can do it. I did see your review. I thought that was really cool. What I would suggest doing is work with a computer for a couple of weeks, learn as much as you can about it, maybe do some upgrades if you want to, and then go ahead and do another review. I've done that a few times with my Dell XPS 8700. Especially every time I do a major upgrade, I always let you guys know. And I want to apologize because I did the upgrade on the HP ProBook 4540, the one that the Core i5 that I have. I put in the 500 gigabyte SSD, but I didn't do a video on that. And the main reason I didn't do a video on it is I did it right before the hurricane came and we were bugging out, and I just did not have time. So in future, if anybody has any questions about that, I have a few people I've seen on YouTube that did almost the identical video. I'll just send you the link to their videos, and they'll show you how to do it. All right, let me see. That's a very good point. Chris Bartlett said garlic makes you healthy. It really does. It's an antioxidant. You guys probably have heard of these superfoods. That is definitely one of them in the vegetable realm. Garlic, asparagus. We have Brussels sprouts to a point, but garlic, asparagus, Brussels sprouts, and the vegetables. For fruits, you got things like pomegranates, you have blueberries, raspberries. Pretty much all of the tart fruits tend to be those superfruits that actually cleanse your body of all the toxins that build up. NY Red Clown says, hola, hello to you. And yes, I do know that. I took a few years of Spanish in middle school. And yes, I did say middle school. When I was in high school, I couldn't take it, unfortunately. I386 asked the other day, why does it look like you're on the passenger side? Yeah, I noticed that too in the van. I'm not sure why that is. Whenever I do a live stream in my car, the video's inverted. I have to see if maybe there's a setting on the phone that I'm missing. But yeah, I realize that too. But I can assure you I'm not on the passenger side. Oh, lost the chat window again. Oh, I hate it when it does that. The 8700 is truly a very good computer and it's worth every penny. Or the 870, I'm sorry, is truly a very good computer and is worth every penny I paid for it. Oh yes, more upgrades are coming. I want to see how it games first before I do any more things to it. Yeah, I definitely understand that. You don't want it to have to be overkill. As a matter of fact, I set up a Dell XPS 8700 just like mine for a friend who plays the Elder Scrolls games, and I think he does some World of Warcraft too. And I actually left the stock card in there, which was a NVIDIA Quattro K600, 610 in his case, 1 gigabyte card. And he's like, that's not going to be good enough to play the game. So I said, you know what? Bring your game disc over, and we'll go ahead and play it. Wouldn't you know, he was getting better frame rates with that card than he did with his old card, which I think was an ATI Radeon R6370. It was like a 2 or 3 gig card. So it really just depends on the chipset. And of course, NVIDIA tends to do a little bit better than AMD or ATI does when it comes to gaming. Don't hate on me for saying that. That's an opinion. That is not a fact, but that's just what I've observed over the years. Hired Gun says, hey, Matt, your dad and you collect cars from what I have seen. My dad does. I help him fix the cars, but they're actually his cars. What do you guys primarily collect, and what all do you guys have on hand now? Um, he has a few classics right now. Mainly they're the Oldsmobile. What are they called? Not the 442, the Hearst Olds. He has two of those, and he has a couple of other ones, but he doesn't want me to tell you because he's going to actually do some videos of himself of those later. So for now, I'll just tell you about those two. But other than that, I personally collect certain computers. I collect Alvin the Chipmunks memorabilia, and it's a good intro to that. I actually picked this up the other day from the thrift store. Another one of these Alvin Build-A-Bear plush toys, or what do you call these? Are they stuffed with hugs and good wishes? Build-A-Bear. I have one of these already, but this was only like $1.58 at the CHKD, and it was in decent shape. So I said, why not? The only blemish is it must have been a girl's because you can see up here, see the red on there. I think that's lipstick. But other than that, he's in really good shape. And of course, these will be collectible down the road too. I'm going to keep these for many years to come for now. But as I get older, maybe I get into my 40s and 50s, and Lord willing, my up into my 60s, then I may want to sell these. And of course, these will be really, really good. They'll have good value later on, just like everything does. For the most part, I mean, if you save your old tuna fish sandwich from 2 months ago, it ain't gonna have much value. I actually heard that somewhere. It's a TV show. Hearst 442. Those years they were actually called the Hearst Olds. They were not 442s. They were Hearst Olds. I shouldn't have said 442. I386 says someone found a way to get the new Windows 10 RS5. I just installed it on my old HP and it looks like it is really the RS5. I'm just testing RS is supposed to be released this month. Guys, I haven't really kept up to date with the new releases of Windows 10. With everything that's been happening in my life, hurricanes and helping my aunt recover from her surgeries, I have really, really been off the ball when it comes to stuff like that. Windows 10 Insider preview builds. Okay, yeah, it's the next release of Windows 10. Yeah, I'll have to take a look at it. I really haven't, again, worked too much with it. Let me see what it says. Acrylic comes to the menus and more. Our acrylic material is used by the default XAML controls to transmit XAML surface-like flyouts. And so it's basically just help you multitask a little bit. But you know what? A lot of this stuff is gimmicky. To be honest with you, I like Windows 10 as it is right now. It's very stable. It's designed well enough to where even users that are coming from Windows 7, Windows Vista, and heaven forbid Windows XP don't have too much trouble migrating to it. But if they start making a lot of these changes and making it more like heaven forbid Windows 8 or 8.1 was, a lot of my clients are not going to be able to use it properly. So I really hope that Microsoft bears that in mind before they make a lot of drastic changes. Oh my goodness. Let me see. I'm getting a lot of people. We've got 22 watchers. That's awesome. Hired Gun says, okay, just wondering. I got back a car I started on. I had it in the 80s, just bought it back. 66 Corvair Monza. That's pretty rare. My dad had a couple of Corvairs back in the 60s. I think he had a 62 and maybe a 63. No, I'm sorry. He had a 62. My dad's friend, I think, had a 64. And I remember they had the issues with the steering to where if you were like driving and you turned it too far to one side, could actually lock and actually cause an accident. Ralph Nader wrote a book, Unsafe at Any Speed. Go look it up. It's interesting, but and it really gave the Corvair a bad rap for a long time. But I think after the first couple of years, they actually fixed that problem. Okay. I36 says RS5 leaked. You have to make a batch file, force it with media creation tool. Yeah. Yeah, I've done that in the past. I'd probably just wait, honestly, at this point until it actually gets released. I worked a little bit with Windows 7 when they had the technical previews. They sent that to me, and I gave them my opinions on it. And I did it somewhat with Windows 10, but lately I just haven't had the time, unfortunately, just sit there and look and say, okay, I like this is what I like about it. I'm running into these particular problems, especially now that we're on this fitness track. I mean, it's killing a lot of time. But hey, look at the results. I'm not complaining. Sunflowers bloom in dark. I like that name. My hard drive is cautioned due to 100 reallocated sectors, even though the drive only has 184 days of use. Okay. Bear in mind that hard drives these days are not made nearly as well as they used to be. Give you an idea, my old Tandy 1200 HD had a 20 megabyte MFM hard drive. That hard drive lasted it lasted 25 years until I got rid of the computer in 2010, which I never should have. Modern hard drives are used with a lot of times substandard components. A lot of times the stepper motors are not balanced properly. In your case, if you have 100 reallocated sectors, back up your data immediately. That hard drive is in grave danger of imminent failure. As long as you can still access the drive, back everything up. Get another, run out now. If you don't have one, get another external hard drive, back it up because, yeah, that is a lot of reallocated sectors, especially for a hard drive that new. I386 likes Windows 7 better, and I'm sure someone else said that. Max O'Neill, 8.1, it's good. 8 is bad. Yeah, they really updated that quick. I am not a fan of either one. Just too many glitches. I didn't like the design. The style wasn't great, where you had to go to the right and you had to wait for that little menu to come up to go to the control panel and access your your power options. Just was not a big fan. Chris Bartlett says, I thought that we're going to call the new Windows something else, not numbers. I think they had played around with that idea for a while. Bearing in mind that Windows 10 is supposed to be basically the last release of Windows, because Windows is going more towards what the Mac OS and the iOS and the Android, they're all doing. They're going to keep Windows 10. They're just going to keep releasing updates to it periodically. And of course, now you have the Windows Store, which allows you to buy a lot of different programs. And that's why Windows 10 is so cheap to buy. And it still, believe it or not, allows you guys, most of you guys can still upgrade your old Windows 7, Windows 8 computers to Windows 10. Because think about it this way, Microsoft wants you to be able to upgrade to Windows 10 for free or at least very cheaply, because they know once you upgrade to Windows 10, there's a good chance you're going to go into that Windows Store and you're going to start buying programs. Most people will eventually. And that's how Microsoft is making a lot of their money, not necessarily on sales of the Windows 10 software itself. A lot of it is people buying programs from the Windows Store. And that's like what I said, they're going more towards what Apple and Android are doing. And is it a good idea? I guess only time will tell. Max O'Neill says Windows ME and Vista were the worst. Totally agree. Especially ME. ME had the system resource glitch to where you actually had to restart your computer about once a day, because your computer, when it was using the resources, it couldn't release those resources back to the operating system. It would just keep going down in resources until it went to zero and the operating system crashed. Can I tell you how many times that happened to my buddy Dave at the time, or David at the time? We were over there. We were playing, I'm trying to remember what game. I think it was Duke Nukem 3D, and I my mind just went blank. There are a few other ones, but the games of that time, Unreal Tournament was another one. And we're playing, all of a sudden the computer would just crash. It would say something effective, system resources exhausted, system needs to restart. And yeah, I would still say Windows ME was the worst by far. 22 watchers, 11 likes. That is totally awesome. Let me see if I can get some of these comments and questions real quick. Max O'Neill saying that Windows Vista was the first real proper laptop, is I guess the first operating system he had on his real proper laptop, and it was okay. He downgraded to XP in 2010, which is what a lot of people did. I'll tell you, I remember. I worked at Best Buy on the Geek Squad during the Windows Vista, Windows XP transition. I can't tell you how many people came in and said, can you please downgrade our computer to Windows XP? And 9 times out of the 10, we had to tell them no, mainly because we didn't have the Windows XP software. Windows Vista got released, I think it was like New Year's Day in 2007. The day before that, so it would have been December 31st, 2006, our shelves were packed with all the versions of Windows XP, home, professional, home and professional. The next day I came in, they were gone. Microsoft forced us to take that off the shelves and put Vista there, and we were not allowed to sell it. I remember for about 3 or 4 months, the old Windows XP discs were sitting in the back room, and we were not allowed to touch those. They had to sit there until a Microsoft representative came and actually picked those up. That's how serious they were. And the reason they did it back then is because they wanted people to use Vista. And when you think about it, Microsoft knew that Vista was not finished. Vista was not finished when it was released. Vista wasn't finished until about a year after it was released. I mean, it was so buggy. I can't tell you how many people came in complaining about their computers. And of course, the other problem was Vista required so many system resources with the new Aero, Windows Aero, the translucent windows and the tiles. Most people were still rocking computers with 512 megabytes of memory, 1 gig if they were lucky and had a lot of money, a lot of disposable income. And of course, back then, a lot of people still had single core processors. Windows Vista, to run properly, really needed at least 2 gigs of RAM and at least a dual core processor. And unfortunately, most people didn't have them back then. Chris Bartlett says, wonder what kind of hard drive it was, the bad one. Yeah, I'd like to know that myself. Let me know what that was. I'm guessing it was probably a Seagate. Robert Westfall said, first ever question. Well, that's okay. Let me see what you got. I have an HP desktop, has been plugged in a long time, 4 years. More of a comment, but that's okay. If you mean that it's had 4 years of uptime, that's great. I've seen servers that can do that, but most consumer grade PCs crash. Stephen Barber says, speaking of Vista, I had it on my HP A720N. Oh, yeah, I had quite a few of those back in the day. Unfortunately, those suffered with capacitor plague. And I think that was actually an XP system. You must have upgraded that to Vista. Those came with Windows XP. Eric Brunhammer, hey buddy, I figured you may or may not be here. For some reason, this truck review is taking forever to edit. Yeah, I can't wait to see that. For those of you the guys that don't know, and I'm not going to say too much, I'm just going to say Eric Brunhammer has picked up a new vehicle. And if you want to see that review video, you got to check out his channel. YouTube user Eric Brunhammer. Do a YouTube or Google search for it. You'll find it. He does great content. Okay, here we go. This is about that hard drive. The hard drive is a 5400 RPM Toshiba in my Dell 1545 from 09. The laptop used to be my cousin's in college. I have no idea if it's original or not. Ah, okay. Yeah, you said the keyword right there. Um, it was your cousins in college. I can almost guarantee you that that hard drive was probably, or that laptop, I should, was probably dropped a time or two. I have some, my cousins are in college right now. You know how college kids love to party, they love to stay up late at night. That's probably what happened, and that's probably why you have that those 100 bad sectors. I would not be surprised, because honestly, those Toshiba hard drives from that period were actually very good. Matter of fact, I have a couple of them sitting in my closet with like 40, 50,000 hours on them. I don't use them because they're only like 60 or 80 gig drives, and they're just too small to do anything with. And you put sunflowers bloom in dark. Chris says I plan to put an SSD in it anyway. Very good plan. I put that 500 gigabyte Western Digital Blue hard drive in my HP ProBook. I love it. It is so fast. It's unbelievable. The one thing I will say is if you do a lot of data exchanging, in other words, writing and reading data, you want to be careful because that will degrade an SSD fairly quickly. Though the newer SSDs with NAND technology can handle that a little bit better than the older ones. Mike Perodin, I should be able to pronounce that. Hello from Montreal, Canada. Nice, very nice. Very fairly close to where my dad's family was. My dad's family was from Sherbrooke in Quebec, so not too far away. I've been to Montreal a few times. Beautiful city, absolutely beautiful city. Great restaurants. You can get almost any kind of food there, and you can actually get New York style pizza in Montreal that's really good. Got 21 watchers and 12 likes. All right, that's awesome. I'm so glad I was able to get so many watchers, and I'm trying to get through all these questions. I apologize if I miss your question. There's a lot of them here. That's why I need my moderators to help me out here, please. Robert Jones, Matt, what do you do to back up your hard drives? That's a very good question. I do it a little bit differently. When I set backups for my clients, usually I'll set Windows to back up automatically to a tertiary drive. So like use something like an external hard drive, a secondary internal hard drive, or sometimes, believe it or not, even a SD card or a flash drive. In my case, I have two external 5 terabyte hard drives and one internal 4 terabyte hard drive that are my backup drives. And periodically, I actually do manual backups. Basically, what I'll do is I'll save everything to my main hard drive. Then about once a month, I'll go ahead and copy everything from that main hard drive to each of the backup drives into a new folder, and then I'll just delete the old backups, as I don't need them anymore. That's just the way I do it. That's not by any means the best way to do it. I just want to do it that way because I find that way I don't miss anything. Julian Butler says, "Hey Matt, how's the family?" Family's doing really well. Mom's upstairs watching TV in the den. Dad's downstairs watching TV. I was going to invite him to the live stream tonight, but it's been a pretty long day. Mom and I actually went for a 8-mile bike ride, and I actually have gotten up to. I should probably post this later, but I'll let you guys know. I've gotten up to 15,315 steps, if you guys can see that. There you go. So not too bad considering I did the 8-mile bike ride as well. I may go ahead and have them come into one of the live streams during the week, but tonight I think I'm just going to let them rest because I can tell you right now they are really tired. Oh my gosh, Max, you hit the nail on the head. I'm going to read this. Microsoft OS has seemed to go one release good, next release awful, next release good, and so on. I totally 100% agree with you there. And I would say that started with Windows 95. A lot of people liked Windows 95, but in the grand scheme of things, it was a very buggy version of Windows. Windows 3.1 and 3.11 were excellent. Windows 95 was so-so. Then came Windows 98, great operating system in most people's opinions. Then came Windows ME, which was absolutely atrocious. Then we had Windows 2000, which was an excellent operating system, albeit it was for enterprises or business systems mostly. Windows XP was a great operating system. I'm gonna put XP and 2000 in the same bracket because they really came out very close together. Then we had Windows Vista. We all know how much we disliked Windows Vista. Then we had Windows 7, which was a great operating system. You guys see the pattern that he was talking about there, right? Yeah, I'm sure. Who is messaging me? Oh, okay. I'll have to answer that later. I figured it wasn't somebody that was here at the live stream. Flips May. It would be great if Microsoft listened to what their customers want. Absolutely. So many times I've said to people, that Microsoft is doing things that they want to do. They think that we need to have that new Arrow interface with Windows 8. They wanted to do that. With the exception of people that had things like the Microsoft Surface tablet or any type of tablet, nobody liked it because when you're on a regular desktop computer, you want a standard desktop with a start menu. You do not want to have this touchscreen Arrow interface because for the most part, people don't have a touchscreen. So I totally agree with that. Microsoft, at the end of the day, Microsoft is going to do what Microsoft is going to do. But if we all give them enough feedback, then hopefully it'll seep into the cracks there, if you guys know what I mean. Sunflowers bloom in dark. I don't like Windows 10 because it auto updates and you can't disable it. That is true. You can't disable that. You can postpone it, but you can't disable it. They make it harder each release. I tried 10 again on the secondary laptop, and now they have a service to keep it going. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. And believe it or not, Windows 10 does not work well on all computers. My uncle's neighbor who bought a computer for me many years ago was an old HP Pavilion. It was a Vista era system that I upgraded to Windows 7, and that worked great. But when we tried to upgrade it to Windows 10, there was some type of weird incompatibility with the chipset on the motherboard, and it caused the computer to go haywire. So she actually had to go back to Windows 7, and it's been working fine ever since. Jonathan Grindle asks, Matt, do any of the laptops you sell have Miracast capability? I'm not sure what you mean by that. I don't sell a lot of laptops, to be honest with you. It's really, really, hang on, let me look at Miracast standard for wireless connectors and displays. Here we go. Sure, HDMI over Wi-Fi. So yeah, probably most of my laptops that I sell would be quote unquote Miracast capable. But honestly, I really don't sell that many laptops. It all depends on if I get them in stock. And when I get them in stock, I probably get, to give you guys an example, I probably get 100 desktops into 2 or 3 laptops. So mainly I deal in desktops. And I don't know if you guys noticed, they're gone. I have 1 desktop left from that whole pile. They all sold within a week. So if you guys, that's another thing I wanted to touch on real quick. If you guys are reselling like I do, desktop computers, laptop computers, any kind of tech, it all goes in spurts. Sometimes you won't make a sale for 2-3 weeks on end, and then you'll sell everything within a week. So don't get discouraged. You will make those sales as long as you follow all the tips that I've laid out in my previous videos. Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm trying to answer all this. Chris Bartlett, Windows 2000 ME I actually liked. I still have the original CD. I can't bundle 2000 and ME together, even though they shared some similarities. Windows 2000 was so much better than Windows ME. And you got to remember, Windows 2000 was an enterprise operating system. It was designed to work on servers or, in the very least, business-oriented systems. And I actually still run Windows 2000 on my music server over there. Great operating system. That's that HP Pavilion 8670 series, something like that, from 1999. Pentium 3, 670 megahertz. Great little computer. I got that at our local thrift store here about 10 years ago, and I use that at least 2 or 3 times a week to listen to music, play games on, and that thing has been die-hard reliable. Even the hard drives in there. One of those, the main hard drive is an 80 gigabyte Western Digital, which is not the original hard drive. The original would have been like a 40 gig Maxter or something like that. But that hard drive is doing well, and believe it or not, the secondary hard drive in there is 160 gigabyte Maxter IDE drive, and even that is doing well. I have an old version of Crystal Disk Info that I run on there periodically to make sure the hard drives are still in good shape, and they're chugging along just fine. I may consider doing a SD card conversion to boot for the boot drive. But I've not had a lot of good luck with those, so we'll have to see what happens in the future. 21 watchers and 14 likes. That's awesome, guys. Give me those thumbs up if you like the content here. And remember, I'm still doing that super chat. If someone will give me, and that's not a single super chat, if I can get $20 in super chats over like the next month, then I am going to ride that roller coaster. I'm going to go to Busch Gardens next year, and I'm going to ride that roller coaster. So, guys, help me out there. I'm keeping track of it over here for you guys. So we'll just have to see what happens. I may wind up doing it anyway, but I really want your guys' help here. I shouldn't have said that. Oh, well. But that encourages me. And hopefully, let me take a sip of water here. Ugh. Sorry about that, tubers. My mouth is getting very, very dry. Okay, that's a good point. Eric Brunhammer said Microsoft. What Microsoft was hoping for was that everyone would run out and buy a new new computer for the new features. They didn't count on us holding on to older systems. I can understand that in a way, but that was really short-sightedness on Microsoft's part. They should know the ingenuity and the thriftiness of the American consumer, and that a lot of us would probably be holding on to our old computers and just trying to upgrade them. Jonathan Grindle, you still have that server Lenovo, the Lenovo ThinkStation? No, I actually wound up selling that probably about 2 or 3 months ago. I do have a Dell Precision T3600 over there now, Intel Xeon. I'll probably try to do a review on that for you. It's very hard, and I've said this before, very hard for me to do any videos in the house because now mom is home all day and so's dad. And no matter what, I always get interrupted. So once they go on their cross country trip again next year, it's going to make it a lot easier for me to do those kind of videos again. And honestly, that's why I haven't gotten to doing the review of that turntable yet. Oh, I need to reorientate myself in this chair. Eric Brunhammer says, finally, the video is uploading. Awesome. I know it'll probably take a little while. I'll try to watch it later on tonight. If not, I'll do it tomorrow for sure. What are we at? We're 39 minutes, almost 40 minutes. Wow, the time flies when we're having fun. I tell you, it really does. There are a couple other comments I wanted to mention. Okay, this one's from Mark Covington. Mark, I know you may not be here, but I'm going to go ahead and answer this anyway. This was a question comment he left on my sell what you know for selling on Craigslist and OfferUp. He said, "Hey Matt, will just about any piece of home equipment still sell well today on Craigslist, no matter how old it is or when it was first built, including turntables, tape decks, receivers, etc." And I did reply to him, and I said, "Yes, it will." As a matter of fact, a lot of times the older equipment holds more value. Things like old Pioneer receivers and turntables. Lafayette is another one that's extremely valuable now. My dad had a old Lafayette receiver from the mid 70s. Great, very well built receivers, and they hold a lot of value. Sansui made a few back in the 70s. I don't think Technics was out yet. I think that was more of an 80s brand. I said Pioneer, Lafayette. Sony had a few real good ones. Fisher. If you can find a Fisher turntable from the mid 60s to like mid 70s, I say like 1963 or 4 to like 1975 or 6, there's some good money in there, especially the ones that are tube and not transistorized. Ah, that's funny. I like that. Chris Bartlett said, Matt, just put a sign on your door that I'm live on YouTube. Do not disturb. I have one on my door to keep my 14-year-old son out. I've tried that before. The problem is, and mom may get mad for saying this, I love her to death, but my mother's voice carries. So even with my door shut, you guys would still be able to hear it if I was filming a video. And I just don't want to have that happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait again until they're both out, probably on the next trip. And then I'll go ahead and knock out 5, maybe 10 videos I've been wanting to do in my room. Charlie Lipinski, hey, I'm sorry I didn't see you there. I know you commented a little bit before. Recently got 200 plus laptops dumpster diving, so to speak. That's awesome. I need to start doing that again myself. And he said those laptops were mainly Dell Latitude D520s and D610s. I vaguely remember those. Let me see. Yep, yep. The Core 2 Duos were the 520s, and the 610s, I think, were a lot of them were like Pentium Ds, something like that. Dell. Let me see. There we go. Yeah. A lot of those were Pentium M's, I should say, not Pentium Ds. Good score. Hey, you know what? Some people are going to still want those. Fry asked, why was Vista buggy? I used it. It was good. You may have had a computer that could handle it. After the first, I think it was up, I think they went up to Service Pack 4 with Vista. When they started getting around Service Pack 2 and 3, Vista got much more stable. And by Service Pack 4, it was almost identical in features and specs and reliability to Windows 7. But we're talking about the early Vista, like before the service packs came out. Okay, it was Service Pack 2. I could have sworn it went higher than that. Could be wrong, though. You were right. You were right. I apologize. It was Service Pack 2. I'm thinking of XP. XP had Service Pack 4. And 2000 did too, but I think the Service Pack 4 in Windows 2000 was third party. That wasn't actually released by Microsoft, to the best of my knowledge. At least not the version I installed on mine. Flips May says, all the people in my area just throw their computers away. I would love to find older computers with a higher value. There's really a sweet spot there. A lot of people think that these like early 2000s Pentium 4 era systems are worth something. They're worth nothing. They really aren't. You have to get a lot older than that. We're talking about 8086s, 286s, 386s, 486s, basically even pre-Pentium era computers. Pentium 1s or early Pentiums, Pentium Pros, they're starting to have some more value now. But if you're thinking about really valuable computers, you're thinking of those older computers, stuff like the IBM 5150, and even older, Commodore 64s, 128s. What are the other ones? The Timex Sinclair systems, the BBC Micros. All of those hold a lot more value than, say, like a Dell Dimension 2400 from the early 2000s with a Pentium 4 or a Celeron. And yes, I know by saying that I'm going to upset a few people on here, but I'm just stating the truth. Max O'Neill, if you have a 1 gigahertz Pentium 3, that is worth a lot. Yeah, they're getting pretty valuable too, and that was kind of a rarity. By that time, Pentium 4s were really starting to take hold. A 1 gigahertz Pentium 3 is pretty rare, though I did have quite a few of them back in the day. One of our local thrift stores got a whole bunch of the compact Desk Pro ENs, if you guys remember those. And most of those that I got had at least the 1 gigahertz Pentium 3. I think a few had the 933 megahertz. The interesting fact, the 933 megahertz Pentium 3 in those was the slot processor, like the Pentium 2s had, but the 1 gigahertz one, they went back to the socket processor. And we could spend hours talking about why the slot processor was a failure, but the main thing with that, I think, had to do with cooling. They were having issues keeping everything cool, because basically what it was just the CPU in a case, and it would stick right into the motherboard. And it was a great idea on paper because it would free up a lot of space on the board. You could actually make your boards smaller. But the problem was there just wasn't enough cooling capability for them. And of course, being that it was in this slot with other circuitry, the price was pretty high too. I remember cooling, especially on the Pentium 2s, was a big problem, because back when I was in high school, showing my age here, the Pentium 2s were just coming out. I'll never forget when I was in my computer tech class at the Science and Technology Center, or BOCES as some people call it. My teacher, right before she started class one day, showed us a Pentium 2 processor. I think it was a Pentium 2 233 megahertz MMX CPU that a friend of hers brought her, and it had literally melted. I mean, the whole plastic case was totally melted, and that was very common back then with those early Pentium 2s and even some of the Pentium 3s. Flips May says, if IBM still owned the ThinkPad name, yeah, a lot of people think that they went downhill when they sold to Lenovo, and in many ways they did. The IBM ThinkPads were just so well made. They were really indestructible. If you've ever had the privilege of owning one of the older ThinkPads like I do, I have one of the older 5000 series ones still sitting in the closet, about as thick as an encyclopedia. I kid you not. That thing is built like a tank. And believe it or not, even though that computer is 21 years old now, has the original battery, the original NiCad battery, which still holds a charge to this day. Over-engineered, just like the older Mercedes-Benzes were back in the day. Julian Butler says, I sold 2 of my laptops I own and supposedly going to be given 2 more laptops to fix up. She said she had a nice Asus and HP that they're not very old but need work done to them. Yeah, I mean, that's great. I mean, that's what we're here to talk about, anything and everything, but mainly you guys are interested in the tech side of things. I'm going to talk a little bit about this. When it comes to reselling technology, it's very challenging because you guys, for the most part, know technology moves so quick. As soon as you buy something, it's obsolete. So when I get a computer in to refurbish, I have to do a lot of work to it, just like you'll have to if you do the same thing. We're talking upgrading the hard drive, replacing the memory. So replacing the memory, replacing the hard drive, generally adding a new video card to it too, cleaning it out physically, and then reinstalling the operating system. So there are some costs to even getting these computers up to the point where you can sell them. The trick is a cost benefit analysis. You need to figure out how much you're putting into these systems, money and time, and then figure how much you can sell them for. And you need to make yourself a decent profit. To make it work generally, you need to be netting at least a 50% profit. That means after everything is said and done, what you laid out for that computer, you got to factor in your time and how much it costs for that computer. You still need to make 50% more. So give you an example. Let's say if I bought a computer, my time and money in it, I had a total of $120. I need to be able to sell that computer for $240 to make it worth my while. That's just a good general idea of what you guys are going to want to do to try to make it worth your while. Because my dad said something very true. If you're not making enough profit and you're working hard to make very little, they have a term for that. It's called blood money, because you're putting your sweat, sometimes your tears, and your effort into something that's just not paying you back. And Jonathan Grindle, the newer HP that nobody knows about is that they have battery problems. I haven't actually heard of that. I know they did back in the day. When I say back in the day, I'm talking early 2000. I need to clarify that. When they had the Pentium 4 era, 17-inch HPs, and I don't remember the model number off the top of my head. See if I can look that up. Yeah, I'm just not seeing it right now, but a lot of you guys probably know what I'm talking about. They were basically laptops that they put desktop processors in, and with all that heat being created by the processor and the bad placement of the battery too close to the processor, they were known to have explosions. So yeah, I know exactly where you're coming from. Scott Keeley goes, when it comes to computers, I look at what I think they are worth. I'm not going to fix something that takes a while to do to only make like $10 to $15. Not worth it. That's absolutely true. And I think a lot of people that are getting started in this business don't understand that. They think that, oh, well, they'll just deal in volume. Well, here's the problem with that. Number one, you're not always going to have the volume that you need of computers, equipment coming in to be able to do that. Number two, it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort to properly refurbish a computer. When I sell a computer, when a computer leaves with a client from here, they can be assured that that computer is as good as if they went to Best Buy or Office Max or Office Depot and bought a brand new computer. Some people that do this and they don't do it properly might sell them a computer that has a hard drive with hundreds of bad sectors, or a computer where they didn't reinstall Windows and the new customers are working off of an old installation with other people's data, other people's viruses, other people's problems in general. So you really need to make sure that you are putting out a quality product. And the only way to do that is to make sure you get your products cheap enough to where you can put your time and effort in, make a decent profit. At the end of the day, everybody is happy. Yep, I love that. Scott Keeley, you hit the nail right on the head. You always say as good or better than it was from new. And in most cases, my computers are better because I don't have all that bloatware that the major manufacturers like to put on their computers. Fun fact, if you ever wondered why your new Acer laptop, your new Dell laptop, etc., has all that bloatware on it, it's because the manufacturers get paid by those software companies to actually put that on the computer. I don't know the actual numbers, but it really, it's called a kickback. In other words, they get this stuff from the manufacturers, they put it on, and in turn, at the end of the quarter, um, I'm not going to name names here. You guys know what kind of bloatware comes on computers, but the manufacturers of that bloatware will actually pay the computer manufacturers quarterly for them to put that on the computer. It's just a fun fact. I actually read a whole article about that a few weeks ago. I think it was in Forbes or something. It was one of the major media outlets. I love that. Sunflowers bloom in the dark. Core 2 Duo plus Vista equals a space heater. Absolutely. I'm gonna say another thing. Pentium 4 hyper-thread 3.4 gigahertz processor and Vista equals the surface of the sun. I had that. I absolutely had that back in the day. My main rig was a custom built computer that I built, Pentium 4 hyper-thread 3.4 gigahertz, running XP originally, but then upgraded to Vista. And during the winter, my room is 10 by 20, humongous room over the garage. That is the only heater I actually needed, believe it or not. Absolutely true. I am not pulling your leg here. Not at all. I see we're losing some people. I think being Sunday, everybody's starting to get tired. So I'm going to end this right at about 60 minutes. Chris Barlow says, I have 3 core duos and they aren't hot at all. Run cool to me. Are they core 2 duos or core duos? Because they are two different things. Let me know, because the older core duos, which the Apples ran for a while, and I think some of the older Dell Inspiron 6000 series had them. They actually ran very cool because they were pretty slow processors, actually. Windows 8 plus Pentium 4 hyperthread equals unstable. Yeah, I'd agree with that, unless you had like one of those very rare Pentium 4 3.7 or 3.8 gigahertz hyperthreads. Then you might get away with it, but it would probably have to be the 32-bit version of 8, not the 64-bit. Were they 32-bit only? Okay, yeah, you're right. I didn't know that. That was something. I learned something here too. So yeah, apparently the core duos were 32-bit. Okay, yeah. So yours were the core duos and the core D, or the Pentium D, I'm assuming. Yeah, as long as you have a decent amount of fans in there, and your circulation is good, you should be fine. But the problem was when the Pentium Ds and the Pentium 4s came out, the Pentium Ds being the dual core versions of the Pentium 4s came out, they were increasingly trying to put these in these mini and micro towers, which had almost no room. You guys that are have worked on computers for a while know what I'm talking about. I mean, these little tiny towers that back in the day you still had IDE, so you had to deal with the ribbon cables for the IDE. There was just not enough airflow in there for those processors. And I kid you not, there were times that I saw those computers where the IDE cable, it got so hot the IDE cables actually melted to the motherboard itself. Sad that they even tried it. Mr. Jimmy, okay, Mr. Jimmy, super chat for $1. All right, let me write this down. I'm going to go ahead and start a new thing here because I don't know what I did with my old one. I think we're up to $2 in super chats right now. as of 9/30/2018. Okay. I'm going to save that. So right now we're at $2. And if we get up to $20, you guys know at this point what's going to happen. And I'm going to have to bite the bullet and actually do it. Just want to make sure I save that. Okay. All right, we're right at an hour. I'm going to answer a few more questions here as I see it, but I'm getting pretty tired, so I do want to end this thing pretty quickly. Yes, at Busch Gardens, definitely. Yes, Windows 10 is worth it. I know I've been asked that so many times. I like Windows 10. It's very stable, and it is a safe operating system. Do one more here. I'll do a couple more. Hired gun. Penny MDs were dogs, slow, and nuclear heat, I think. Yeah, like I said, it depends on which ones you had. I had some of the Penny MD 945s back in the day, which I think were like 3.06 gigahertz, and they ran hot, but they had, if you kept them cool, they had decent performance. But the problem again was most people did not have the proper airflow, and when those things got hot, they would become dog slow. All right, tubers, I'm ending this. I'm very tired right now. I'm starting to lose my voice. I think our peak here, we had 23 watchers. That's great for a Sunday. I realize that a lot of you out there want to spend time with your family. I appreciate you sticking with me. Please stay tuned for the live streams tomorrow. Remember, for the next week, we're going to have a live stream every night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Go ahead and look that up to make sure you know what time that is in your area. And as always, have a blessed day, everybody.